Hey everyone, Alexander Matthias here from SaxophoneMasterclass.com. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how major scales are formed. Now I'm going to be showing you on the alto sax today, but this applies to every instrument. Now if you want, you can follow along with the free PDF download that I have available at saxophoneMasterclass.com/major scales. In that PDF, I describe everything we talk about in this video, and I write out all 12 major scales for you so you can start learning all your scales today. You don't even need to read music because I've written out everything alphabetically. Before we move on, do me a favor, like this video if you're a sax player, and let me know in the comments section how long you've been playing and what your biggest challenge is on sax. So let's get started. First, I'm going to show you what whole steps and half steps are so you can understand how major scales are formed. So a half step means it's one chromatic note away from the note you're starting on. So let's say we're starting on C. This is the note C here. So this is the middle C. A half step away from C, ascending, is going to be C sharp. That's the next note chromatically up the scale. So a half step up from C is C sharp, and I'm going to play both notes now. So that's a half step ascending on a note. Now of course a half step can also be descending like this. So let's start in at C again, and this time we're going to do a half step down. So that's a chromatic note down from C to B. That's a half step downwards. Now of course this applies on any note that you start on. So let's say we start on E. So we're going to start with E with the octave key, which is 3 fingers in the left hand, 2 fingers in the right hand, and then that octave key at the back. And a half step up from that is going to be F. That's the next chromatic note up. So E to F sounds like this. Now a half step down from E is going to be D sharp, which is D with this note here, this side note here. This is also known as E flat. So E to D sharp or E flat is also a half step, but it's a half step down. So that's a half step up and a half step down from E. Now a whole step is 2 half steps. So if we start on C again, we're going to go up 2 half steps to make a whole step like this. So we start on C, we go up 1 half step to C sharp, and then another half step to D, which is 3 fingers in the left hand, 3 fingers in the right hand, and that octave key. So that's 2 half steps. So that means C to D is a whole step. Now, of course, a whole step applies descending as well. So if we start on C again and go down a half step to B and another half step to B flat, that's going to be a whole step. So C to B flat is a whole step as well. C to D is a whole step up. And C to B flat is a whole step down. So that's an explanation of half steps and whole steps, and that's going to allow me to show you how a major scale is formed. So I'm going to use C major as an example of how major scales are formed. I'm going to start on the low C and go up to the middle C. Let me show you. So that's C major. The notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. So there's 7 notes in a major scale. So I'm going to show you how a C major scale is formed with whole steps and half steps. So a major scale is formed like this. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So with C major we have C to D, which is a whole step, D to E, which is a whole step, E to F, which is a half step, F to G, which is a whole step, G to A, which is a whole step, A to B, which is a whole step, and then B to C, finally, which is a half step. So this formation using the whole step, half step method is actually the same for every single major scale. So let's say we choose G major scale now. I'm going to show you the notes on the sax. So So that's G major, and that is formed in the same way. We start on G, then we go from G to A, which is a whole step, A to B, which is a whole step, B to C, which is a half step, C to D, which is a whole step, D to E, which is a whole step, E to F sharp, which is a whole step, and finally F sharp to G, which is a half step. So no matter what note you start on, you can follow this formation to create a major scale. So try yourself at home, just pick any note and try to form a scale using the whole step, half step method. Now in the PDF download you can get at saxophonemasterclass.com, major scales, I do have a cheat sheet in there where I show you all the major scales in all 12 keys. But it is important to know how major scales are formed, and if you do forget the major scale, you can figure it out just by memorizing this one thing. The whole step, half step formation. 2 whole steps, then a half step, then another 3 whole steps, then a half step. So check out that PDF download and work on all your major scales. This is going to be really important for learning new songs and being able to improvise on the saxophone. Now if you want to learn more about scales and how they apply to music, I have a course called Mastering Your Saxophone Scales. And this is part of my 6 Weeks to Saxophone Success course. And you can find out more about that at www.saxophonemasterclass.com/6 weeks to saxophone success. There's a link in the description, so check it out and hopefully I'll see you in there. In the meantime, I put out videos every week on YouTube, so please subscribe, click that notification bell, and I'll see you next week.